Finnegan Nixon events we like. We have Bob Circosta on the interview today. We have had some technical difficulties like you would not believe, and it's crazy, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that, because during this whole time of getting this interview started with Facebook Live and some other tools and internet, crashes, we have reminded ourselves of this whole idea of keeping it real, being less than perfect, and not being afraid to be the fool. And we certainly, I'm going to speak for myself, got on Facebook Live and had all sorts of problems, publicly humiliated, right? Except I don't feel that way. So that's just one of the things that happens anytime you're doing video live. And the reason why we're talking about that is because we have Bob Circosta, who has sold billions of dollars in products for Home Shopping Club. He's all about the video pitch and presenting the line and selling products over video. And there's always some sort of technicality going on there. So I do want to at least say hello to Bob. Bob, go ahead and say hello. Make sure you're here.
Michelle, we're here. We've connected, finally. I
Yay!
kept thinking while we were having all the technical difficulties that we landed on the moon in 1969.
Yeah, we
and
did.
Here we are, 2018, and we're trying to connect, but we made it. We made
it. Yes, we did. And I want to make sure that you have a proper introduction. And so I'm going to read a little bit of your bio, not too much of it, because I want to spend most of the time having you share instead of me reading. So basically, this is what the career says. Bob Circosta is a TV's original home shopping host and helped create the TV home shopping industry. And he is the TV's billion-dollar man. That's what they recognize you as, having over 42 years in the industry. And he has a show recently called What a Great Idea with Bob and Chad. That's happening tonight at 7 p.m. here at Facebook channel. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And he has a popular book called Life's a Pitch. And he has taught all sorts of people his proprietary system on how to present the line and how to pitch successfully your ideas. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and say hello, Bob, officially, and go ahead and tell us a little bit about this whole idea of less than perfect and getting started with video, because you said the Home Shopping Club, I'm sure it didn't start off perfect. So we want to share a little bit about
that. No, not at all. You're so right. First of all, it's an absolute pleasure and a delight to be with you and everybody. Yeah, it all started 42 years ago, and I happened to be there at the beginning of a whole new industry, helping create some existed before, and we all know it today as TV shopping. But TV shopping didn't start on TV. TV shopping on radio, a small radio station in Clearwater, Florida. And it was a news talk station, had nothing to do with selling anything. It was news talk. But what you have to understand is that this was probably the world's worst radio station. I mean, it was just awful. Low rated, very few listeners. But in order to stay on the air, you have to sell advertising. And so the owner of the radio station, a guy by the name of Bud Paxson, he would go around town and he would try to sell advertising. And he sold a few contracts here and there. And this is all true now. This is how what we know as TV shopping, how it really started, an advertising contract to an appliance store. And so for 13 weeks on my radio show, we advertised the appliance store on my talk show. And once again, this radio station had nothing to do with selling products or merchandise. So at the end of the cycle, Bud went back to the appliance store to get paid. And the guy who owned the store said, "Bud, why are you here?" And Bud said, "Well, I'm here to get paid." He said, "For what?" And Bud said, "For the advertising." And the guy said, "What?" He said, "Not one person has come in here and said they even heard my commercial." And he said, and then he said, "I think you do have the world's worst radio station." And then the guy said, "I'm not going to pay you for the advertising." This is all true. And Bud said, wait a minute, that's not how this works. And they went back and forth, back and forth. Finally, the guy who owned the appliance store said, I tell you what I'll do, Bud. Instead of paying you in cash, I'll give you a box of merchandise. I had a big shipment come in a couple hours ago. So by this time, Bud was so frustrated, he had no idea what he was going to do, but he was leaving with something. So he picked up the box, got in the car, drove back to the radio station. Meanwhile, I'm doing my talk show. And every hour, there was like a little news break. You know, they do the weather and sports. And so I'm sitting in this little booth, having a cup of coffee, not bothering anybody, all by myself. And in walked Bud. Now, Bud was about 6'8". So when he came in a room, you knew he was coming in that room. And he came in this little booth, Michelle, and he was holding in his hands the electric can opener. Now, this is 1977, so this was an avocado green, ugly electric can opener. And he said to me, he said, Bob, when you come out of the news, I want you to sell the can opener. And I looked at him like he had three heads. You know, I said, you want me to do what? He said, I want you to sell. I said, sell? I remember saying to him, Michelle, you want me to sell? Wait a minute. I'm a newsman. You know, I have morals and ethics. I don't want to. Yeah. And
negative
then he
salesman.
explained to me, yeah. And then I thought about, and he explained it to me, the relationship between me selling the can opener and me getting a check. And that can opener looked pretty good. And so I came on after the news. I said, we'll get back to our topic in just a moment, recounted the whole story, started describing the can opener. And I said, if you call me up right now, reserve a can opener, come on down to the radio station and pay for it. It's yours. And on that day, that was August 28th, 1977, I sold 112 electric can openers. And
wow.
That was the beginning of the entire home shopping industry. That's how it started. Okay. Wow. And then it was years on the radio. Then it went to local TV in 1982. And then in 1985, it went nationwide. And today, Michelle, TV shopping channels are all over the world. You can't go to a country and not have a TV shopping channel. They're all over the world. And it all started with the sale of 112 electric can openers.
So it's the can opener. Well, think about that. Think about, I'm a little abstract, but I think of a can like film. You know how they used to put film in a can?
Oh, sure.
You opened it up. The can opened up the industry. What a great product.
Yeah.
And think about it.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. You know, avocado green can opened everything up. And it's been going strong ever since. Yeah.
Yep.
Avocado green is a money color, right?
Yeah,
you opened up a can of money.
Yeah, you're right. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. And now today, the industry worldwide is like it's a $20 billion industry worldwide. All those cans, yeah, that's how it started.
And it's a great service. You know, there's been times where you're sitting watching TV and a product comes in and you go, oh my God, I need that. You know, I want that.
Yeah.
So things that you've never even, you know, like you would never even think of existing or ever think of wanting or needing. And all of a sudden you see it on TV and you think, my gosh, that's a really cool idea. So, which brings me to the next thing is you have this show you're starting. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, here's how this came about. The show is called What a Great Idea. Okay. And it started, I think, about 14 or 15 years ago. I noticed there really wasn't any outlets for the entrepreneur, for the small business person. The big brands, the big companies, they had no problem getting on the air. But the smaller people, you know, the small business, the entrepreneurs, they had no way to do it. So I started a show called What a Great Idea for entrepreneurs. And that really blossomed and did extremely well. And today, the What a Great Idea banner encompasses different types of What a Great Idea for entrepreneurs and small business owners. There's a What a Great Idea with Bob and Chad for the TV shopping world. And there's a What a Great Idea with Bob and Chad for social media. So you have to understand, we match up the distribution because there are two keys that every business has to have.
Mm-hmm.
And those that are watching right now, if you're not exactly where you want to be with your business, think about these two keys. You might be lacking one, or maybe you're lacking both. But you've got to have any successful business, whether it's TV, it doesn't matter. If you want to market something as successfully, anything, anywhere, you have to have two keys. One is called the letter P, and the other is the letter D. The letter P stands for presentation. You've got to have the right pitch. You've got to have the right message. All right. If you're in front of the right people, but you don't have the right pitch, you're not going to get the results. The D stands for distribution. What do I mean by that? You've got to be in the right marketplace. You could have a great pitch, great presentation, great product, but if you're in front of the wrong market, you're never going to get the return. That's why you got to have them both. You have to have the right presentation, and you have to match it up with the correct distribution. And that's what I do for entrepreneurs and business owners. And that distribution might be TV shopping, it might be social media, it might be B2B, it could be, but you've got to have the right distribution. If you have that with the right pitch, you got a home run every single time.
I love that. Years ago, I was part of a P&D team, but we called it price. We called it price and delivery. So a little different, but along the same lines. You know, you gotta, like you said, price, present, delivery, distribution. So I'm locking into that. Yeah, and that's true. I mean, even when I went to business college, they talk about the importance of distribution and all the right marketing channels. And I think sometimes people get focused on things that aren't going to get them the result. They'll focus on maybe a website when they should be focusing on the distribution channels.
You're
like,
right.
For example, yeah, because like I'm an event business, I'm more interested in building relationship with Ticketmaster or Groupon or one of those, because I know they have huge distribution, right? So for me to just only use Facebook or that's not really doing myself a favor. And so talk about that more.
But when you talk to somebody at Ticketmaster, if that is your goal, when you talk to somebody there, you better have the right message.
Right? Exactly.
You could be in front of the right person, but with the wrong message. And what I have found with small business owners and entrepreneurs is that they may have that right message, but they're going after the wrong audience. They're going after the wrong customer. Right. So that's why you got to have. So my challenge to all the business owners out there, if your business is not where you want it to be, just trace it back. Do you have the right message? And are you going after the right customer in the right place? And if you are, then you're going to be okay. But I guarantee if you're not where you want to be, it's because of the lack of one of those two. And that's what I share with so many people out there. And in fact, I just had one of my mass marketing boot camps this past weekend where people fly into Florida, and we spend 2 content-rich, intensive days. And we teach about the presentation, and we teach about the distribution. And we nail. So when people leave that boot camp, they know exactly how to say what they have, the right way to, and then they know the right way to go about where their customers are.
Well, I love that, and I love the name of your company is Communications Inc. And that's it in a nutshell. He who knows how to communicate, rules the world, really.
Oh,
and what to say is everything. You don't want to trip up your words. You want to be clear. I went to an investors conference, and there were several companies there to pitch and present their product in front of the investors with the goal of getting an investor. I sat there and watched as each company went up and presented, and they had some spectacular items. However, not one asked for the sale. Not one. And it was kind of like, oh, just give us your email and tell us if give us feedback on what you liked. So I said to the gentleman running it, I said, you could do a whole course teaching these people how to present the line and how to ask for the sale. And it's a little different than, traditional selling. You're dealing with investors. And, there's this show like the Sharks and all that. Tell us a little bit about asking for the sale in a way that the investor needs to hear it, because there is a formula. One of my mentors, Bill Walsh, had mentioned, if you ask for a price that the public isn't conditioned to believe is good, they have like a hello, like a stop button. Like, if you're saying, $600 when it should be $997, they'll literally not write the check. So I'm curious about that.
Well, let me take it from another perspective. And Bill is so right. Bill's a very, very good friend. And
Yeah.
wow, what a mind, what a business mind he has. I mean, just phenomenal. But let me take another perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that most people, when they are talking about what it is they have, they are talking about it from their perspective.
Mm-hmm.
They don't talk about it from the other person's perspective. And if you're pitching an investor, I go back to what was said a moment ago. I think it's the same as when you are trying to market a product. Because if you go in there and you only talk about what it is you have, and then you don't ask for the money at the end or a call to action, you don't do that, you're not going to get any a response, of course. But if you talk the entire time about, let me tell you about how great my idea is or how great my company is, and you go on and on and on, they're thinking, that's great for you.
Right.
How about, what am I going to get out of it? All right.
Exactly.
You have to change your whole perspective. You have to change that whole dynamic that you're coming from, whether it be an investor, whether it be you're looking into a camera, whether you're looking into somebody's face, on the phone, on the internet, it doesn't matter. You've got to come from their perspective. And I go really deep on this at the Mass Marketing Bootcamp, where we drill down and everybody leaves there with their own pitch, because everybody's different. Everybody's different. But there are 5 keys to any winning presentation. You have to have the grammar. You have to have the problem solution. You have to have what I call the pod, your point of difference. You have to be benefit, making that emotional connection. And then you have to have the CTA. You have to ask for the order at the end. And knowing but if you're approaching all of those from your perspective, you're not going to get anywhere. You got to do it from the other person's perspective. Okay? That's what you've got to do. And you have to talk about facts. Most people do talk about facts. So you have to mention the facts about what it is you have, but people don't buy based on facts. They buy based on benefits. Features tell, benefits tell.
Yeah.
So how do you get to the benefit? The transition, that's the magic. That's the key to make that transition. And that is nothing more than giving reasons to buy, reasons to respond. And that's what somebody has to think about when they're taking a look. It's so gratifying to me when I take a business owner or whatever, and I say, okay, what it is you have, and they tell me, and it's all facts, and that's important. Facts are great. Facts provide information, but the emotion provides the interpretation. What I mean by that is that when you're telling somebody about what it is you have, if you're just giving fact after fact after fact, that's great. You're not doing anything wrong, but they're taking everything in on an emotional level. Right. So there's no you've got to make that connection. That's one thing I teach, is how to make that connection. In fact, I have a proprietary formula that I developed during home shopping in the early years of how to get the response. And that's what I teach people to do. And it's worked pretty well. I've done over 6 billion.
Hey, there's a track record for you. Now I want to segue a little bit, because we had a little fun before our call. I was talking about how I learned how to sell, and it might surprise some people, and I'm also pretty savvy at finding out how things work. I've always had a gift for the science behind how things work. So there is a very funny episode of I Love Lucy. And she is just dying to be a pitch woman. And this is classic television. This is kind of like where it started. and she's selling the Vita Vita Vitamin. There was like, do you poop out at parties? And so in the sales practice place and the sales coaching and training, a lot of times I will say, just watch that episode. And I know it progressively gets, she gets drunker and drunker, and it's really hilarious. But if you look at how she follows a path, do you poop out at parties? Are you uncomfortable? What you need is Vita Vita Vitamin, and then so you're watching how she falls apart, with her, she's getting
Right.
sloppy and the whole bit. So I thought that was great. But then I had another idea. I thought, this is a little bit like a Saturday Night Live skit. What made the writers create this for her? What happened that gave him this brilliant idea to make fun of pitch people? So I started going on YouTube, and I can't believe it, I found it. Now, it's just a theory, but I believe this is what happened. Betty White used to do the Geritol commercials. And if you go on YouTube and you watch, Betty White was like, she'd sing, she's like, good morning, she'd do all this stuff. And then she would do the Geritol commercial. She said, and she literally would say, are you tired? Do you crap out, at the end of the day? You need to get Geritol. I mean, it's so funny if you watch Betty White do it, and then you watch Lucy, and you're like, I wonder if they even were friends or talking to each other at the time, because it was that radical. So I'm curious, classic infomercials, YouTube is a great resource for people to kind of get an idea of how, wait, there's more, and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm just kind of curious how the classic of what worked before may have shifted to what you're talking about today with your I can't even say the word, preparatory system, how it shifted and changed. Because what we were able to do in classic TV is not quite the same as what we do today. And you said you had a story about that, which was the importance of being real. So we want to talk about that.
That's the key. Michelle, that's the common denominator, to be real. What has changed now is the technology, as you and I found out earlier. The technology changed a great deal. The way words out there, whatever, messages out there, that changed. But the human the ability to connect with the other person, no matter how, just the ability to connect, that has not changed. And the common denominator is that you got to be real. Here's what happened. In the early days on radio, and home shopping was on radio, the owner of the station, I referred to him earlier, Bud Paxson, and he was truly the founder. I mean, he was the man. And Bud had this little habit. He wanted everybody on the air, on the radio, to have little nicknames. Like we had, we had Bargain Barbara. We had Peddlin' Peg. So one day I came in to do my radio show, and I heard Bud's voice, and he said, Bob, come on in here. So I said, okay, well, what's up, Bud? He said, I have it. I said, you have it? You have what? He said, I said, my name. He said, yes. From now on, you're going to be known as Marshall Bob shooting down high prices.
Ah!
So, 4 years of college and a Marshall Bob. Are you kidding me? I mean, I was so depressed. So I went on the radio. And I did my show as Marshall Bob. So I went home and I was so depressed. I said, Marshall Bob, how can I do this? What have I done? And then I'm looking through the newspaper, and I saw an ad for Budget Rent-A-Car. And I'm thinking, Marshall Bob, Budget Bob. Marshall Bob, well, Budget Bob's not paying the heck out of Marshall Bob. So I stayed to do my TV show, and I went into Bud, and I said, Bud, I can't be Marshall Bob. I just can't do this. And he said, what do you want to be called? I said, how about Budget Bob? He said, fine. So I went out and I did my TV show as Budget Bob. And the first caller on the air said, you sound an awful lot like Marshall Bob. And and I said, what happened? So he's gone. So we had all these little nicknames because Bud understood the importance of making that real connection, that friendliness, that helping, okay? Not selling, but helping. Big, big difference.
Well,
And I
just
go,
just to stop there for just a second, and I don't want to get
yeah,
political, but that was the genius of Trump, was labeling a name, like Budget Bob. It works.
yeah,
Continue. I
yeah.
just had to segue
Yeah,
back.
no, no, you're right. You're right. So anyhow, so we did that on radio for 5 years,
Yeah.
and then local TV, we did that for another few years. And then in 1985,
Uh-huh.
here's my point. So we all thought, well, we've got to get rid of these names. That's oh, forget that. We got to go on just like anchor men and women, and we have to use our first.
Respectable.
Yeah. Be smooth and all that kind of stuff. And we went on, and we bombed. We
Oh.
died. It was awful. And Bud said, tomorrow, Budget Bob is born again. He's back. and so it was. And we continued with the names. And within 6 months of that first day, we did $1 million in one day. Okay. So my whole point is that you've got to make that connection. If you have a product, if you offer a service, maybe you're a coach, maybe you're a consultant, maybe you've written a book, maybe you're an author. You've got to make the connection with the other person, or however you're marketing what you have. You've got to making the connection is key, and the first element to do that is to be you. To be real. I train people all over the world now, and I would say 98% of the people that you see on TV, they come to my training course, and even those not on TV, they take my training course. And the number one thing I tell them is be you. Don't change who you are. Just understand how to create the need for what you have within your own comfort zone.
Right.
But don't try to be somebody, because you won't be able to pull it off, and they'll see through it right away. You've got to do this. This is not a gimmick. It has to be built on integrity and trust, and integrity is just so very, very key and important. Okay, I mean, integrity is something nobody can take away from you unless you give it away. But integrity is the foundation. So this is all built on honesty and really helping other people with what you have. I mean, I could go on for weeks and weeks and weeks. I know you don't.
No, I agree with you. A lot of people. Can you hear me? Okay. What were you saying?
Yeah. Let me just add one more quick thing. When I do live conferences and at seminars, and I'll go in and I get people up from the audience, and they come on stage with me, and we play the home shopping game. We play the pitch, and we do the pitch up there. And you talk about an eye opener. You talk about people going, whoa, I never knew to do it that way. I've always been doing it this way. And what a difference. I mean, Michelle, what a difference that makes.
Well, it's like the same thing with public speaking. There are cookie cutter products out there. I was talking to people. I want to be different. I do it different.
Sure.
I like to, as they used to say, you let the spirit move you. If you're too scripted, if you're too cookie cutter, then you miss. There's somebody in the audience that might even have a little prayer to God. They were looking for a particular thing, and as human beings, we can pick up other people's vibes, and if we're not paying attention, and we're only focused on looking good or saying it the right way, then we miss those downloads where, it's almost like a spiritual phenomenon where we can say, some of you came here tonight to, find a can opener. Some of you came here tonight, and so you're able to communicate from the heart, which is very real, and tap into that emotional connection. Because one of the things I learned in selling, I'm sure you know this too, is if people stay on the intellectual side, they're not going to buy. They have to feel the connection and the emotion. And so being authentic and being you, it took me a long time. I was an introvert, and I'm an extroverted introvert. And
You
so,
were an introvert?
yeah, I was very shy and
What?
quiet. Yes. And what pulled me out of my shyness was I could sing, and it was found out accidental. I was singing, my mom heard me, and then she just started pushing me in front of people to sing, and became a praise and worship singer a whole bit. And I was not comfortable with that, but I wanted to sing. So it took years and years and years to get comfortable and be completely vulnerable, because that was the key for me, was learning to be completely vulnerable and not
Sure.
worrying about falling apart on stage. I had sets follow me and the whole bit, but it's that. And I think that a lot of times when I see public speakers or people who are trying to present in front of groups, they're so overly concerned with what they look like, what they sound like. They don't know how to be vulnerable. And I think that that's what I'm hearing from you is you got to be you, because you can't fake. Like I love Forbes Riley. I think she's great. She's a pitch
Yeah,
woman. She's
Forbes
another
is
one,
great.
I
Yeah.
could never be Forbes Riley. I couldn't. And even if I tried to be, like she talks about how to sell a pencil, I couldn't do it the way she does it. So the only way we can, yeah, really tap into our greatness is to work with people like you who can draw it out, because sometimes we don't know what our genius zone is. And I think
Right.
you know how to help people find their genius zone and do that. Whatever that is, that's what they need to
Right.
be doing.
Right.
So,
No, I mean,
yeah.
and that's what I love doing that as well. And everybody has it within them, but like you said, it's finding that sweet spot. Where is
Right.
that? What within Michelle can make that happen, can make
Right.
that come out. You
Right.
find it, and it's easy to retain because you understand why you're doing what you're doing. But it's not somebody else, it's you. And the world doesn't want another Bob Circosta. The world wants you, the other person, the individuality. It's all difference in the world. I do a whole thing on that too. You're right.
You're finding yourself, and when you find yourself,
Yeah.
then all of a sudden it's easy. It's
Yep.
not difficult. And then
Yep.
you polish. There
Yep.
is a system. There is an absolute system. The cookie cutter does have a system to follow, but who you are being is really important. And it takes an
Yep.
expert or a mentor to say, we love you, we like who you're being, keep being you. And
And to give you permission.
yes,
You
give you
know.
permission to be you. So that's really cool. Tell me a little bit about tonight's show that you're doing. How do people get involved with your, I segued a little bit, but I want to make
Right.
sure we get that in.
Sure. It's one of the types of what a great ideas that we do. As I said earlier, we have a what a great idea format for TV shopping.
Yeah.
We have one for business people. We do one on social media. That's the one we do every Thursday night at 7 o'clock Eastern, and it's on the Facebook. It's on Facebook, so you would go to Facebook to the What a Great Idea page, and that's where you would see the show. And we have 3 entrepreneurs that join us every single week, and we bring them in by way of video, so they could be at their house or they could be wherever, and they pitch their product, and we're able to find out a little bit of the backstory, how they came up with what they did, some of the challenges they had to face that can help other people that are going through the same thing. And then they get to pitch and direct people to their website if you want to actually purchase the item. We had a young lady who had a toilet type product. And so when we went to her, I said, where are you right now? Because it looked like it was a prison cell. I said, where are you? And she said, well, I'm in a public restroom in a state park in the state of Colorado. I said, okay, well, that's interesting. And then when she started to pitch, her phone battery died. And so she went away. We had so many inquiries. We had so many posts. We had so many people, typing frantically, what happened to Kara? Where did she go? What happened to her? And thank goodness we found out later she was fine, but she'll be on the show tonight, making a return visit
Great.
from public restroom. the state park in Colorado.
Fantastic. Well, it just goes to show you you're being authentic. People do care about you. And
Yeah,
sometimes the problem is not such a bad deal because you said you got people caring and resonating with her
yes.
and what making sure she's okay. So tonight she's going to be on. I can't wait to see that. So we can go to bobcircosta.com to learn all about Bob's incredible program. He's got a boot camp coming up called Mass Marketing Boot Camp. It's
Right.
extremely reasonable. It's only $9.97 if you go to Florida. If you want to come to Las Vegas, you can text me 949-522-5563 because we will have Bob come to Las Vegas as well. The prices will be a little bit more, but if you're really smart, you'll want to get to the Florida event with Bob. And when is the next one? What's the date for the boot camp?
Next, going in January. We're not sure the specific date yet. I should know in the next day or so, and I'll let you know. But it's going to be in January, probably. I don't know the middle or the end of January. We're just trying. January is such a busy month for so many people. We're trying to pick the best date. I'll give you another email address to go to that's even quicker. It's called info@bobandchad.com. Info, I-N-F-O, Bob and Chad. And we'll be able to get back to you with all the details about it. But it's 2 days content of education. You're going to learn where you should pitch in order to return that you've been looking for.
Fantastic. And you're going to also be able to learn more about Bob at eventswelike.com/Bob Circosta. And we will have his expert profile probably up before this next couple of days. So we're going to go ahead and say that this has been a great call, great experience. So thank you so much for enduring the challenges of the internet and video. It's just one of the things we have to face sometimes, but I've enjoyed having you here. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we say our goodbyes, or not till we meet again?
Yeah. Just remember, a gentleman by the name of Red Motley said many years ago, nothing happens in America until somebody sells something. So no matter what you're doing, no matter what you're in, you've got to sell what you have. Awesome. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you so much for our time together. And again, eventswelike.com/Bob Circosta, and you can learn more about him and all the things he's doing. And we'll see you tonight on the show. What's the show's name again?
What a great idea with Bob and Chad Entrepreneur Show
on Facebook. Signing out. Take care. God bless everyone. And we'll see you again at the next Events We Like.